Hi, I'm Charlie Collins, and this is the Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast, brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award-winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service, 7 days a week. And you're very welcome to our Championship Podcast in association with Donegal Daily and Donegal Sport Hub, and thanks again to our sponsor, Kelly Centra, at the Mountaintop here in Letterkenny, and they're celebrating their 10th year in business. We wish them well. They have loads of giveaways over the next number of weeks over there. Congratulations to them, and you can get all the details on donegaldaily.com of the competitions that Marcin and his staff are running. So thanks to them. Right, we're going to look forward to the 2021 Championship. Just before we do that, just mention the 2020 Championship. We had a couple of weeks here with our guest talking about the Championship final coming up, and then when the Championship final was played. As you all know, anybody interested in sport, never mind GAA, there's loads of things have happened since in terms of appeals and protests. The thing is in limbo at the moment. It's quite confusing, so we're not going to even talk about it today to confuse you anymore. Just hopefully it will be resolved satisfactorily, if that's possible, at some stage in the future. I'm delighted to say that we're joined by John Harn and Danny O'Donnell for the first time. Danny, you're very welcome. Men with good pedigree in the Championship, of course. Danny at intermediate and senior level with Nivora and with Milford. And John Harn, of course, multiple winner with St Eunan's in the Dr. Maguire Cup. Guys, good to have you. As I said, we're not going to deal with 2020. We're going to look forward to 2021. The Championship gets underway this weekend. John, you have the fixtures there in front of you. The CCC have decided to split it over the first 2 weeks, so we've got 4 senior games this weekend, 4 the following weekend. Let's just look at what we have there this weekend, starting on Friday night. McCool's against St Michael's, then it's Killybegs, Glenswilly, Ardra, Bundoran and Gweedore Milford on Sunday as well. Good to get the 2021 Championship up and running at last, John.
It is, Charlie. You know, it's been a long season a long season in some ways for the clubs. You know, they started back, and once the COVID restrictions were lifted, and I suppose every club was looking forward to the Championship, Charlie. That's the pinnacle of the year for them clubs, and there's clubs there looking to push on in the Senior Championship and try and make their mark. And it's great now that we have a run now for the next 7 or 8 weeks. We're going to have good football every weekend, and you know, I think the capacity is lifted around the grounds now, so anyone that wants to get to these games should be able to get in. There should be there are no problems there. So that's great, Charlie. It's great for the players. They've been training hard all year. The league's over now. They've got their preparation done, and it's, you know, I'd love to be a player again, Charlie. Looking forward to game after game after game in Championship. That's where you want to be, and you know, hopefully players don't get injured, and every club gets a clear run on it and gets to put their best foot forward and see how they get on.
Yeah. Danny, you've been in this situation with clubs coming into the Championship, coming into the Intermediate Championship, coming into the Senior Championship. It's an exciting time. Situation's been slightly different with the whole COVID scenario this year, but at the same time, as John says, there's that edge to the Championship that everybody looks forward to.
Yeah, massively, Charlie. And as John says, it's Championship time. I know as a player, even as a coach or manager, you get that different feel in the air. You know, there's something different happening. Boys get Championship haircuts, all this crack is going on. But yeah, look, Championship time, it's all about that, Charlie. And especially, I think this year with, you know, after last year and the COVID, I think everybody's looking forward to this year. You know, I think a real crack at it. Supporters back at the games. And from a manager's point of view, they've had a 4 to 6 week building to the Championship. So there's no excuses in terms of preparation time. You know, in previous years, you were mixing maybe league games with maybe a Championship game, or Championship game at the end of a competitive league.
Yeah.
The league wasn't competitive this year. The county players weren't involved, and then relegation was taken out of the equation. So what you're going to have is every team, no matter who you are in Senior Championship, 16 teams, they're all going to be gunning for this first game, either this weekend or next weekend, because that first game is vital to your chances of qualifying for the quarterfinals or staying out of the relegation eight, you know. So yeah, absolutely, I'm buzzing. I'm looking forward to it, Charlie, to be honest.
Yeah. John, the last few years we've talked about the big 4, Naomh Conaill, St Eunan's, Kilcar and Gweedore. They've been the teams that have been dominating the latter stages of it. Is there anything to suggest that things will be different this year?
It's hard to know, Charlie. My gut feeling says no, you know. But then again, there's always a surprise there. If you look at McCool's last year, they ran Gweedore very close in Gweedore in their quarter final. So, you know, have McCool's kicked on a bit from last year? We have to wait to see. You know, the same team, St Michael's, Glenswilly there. Do you think there might be a kick in, especially Glenswilly, when Michael Murphy comes back? It lifts them, maybe gives their players maybe a 30 or 40% lift, Charlie. I think he's that important to them, you know. St Michael's, you know, Colin McFadden's still there. I'm not sure about Christie. I don't think he's played much so far. But Martin McElhinney, and they've still a sprinkling of good players. Michael Langan, a massive player for them, and there's always a kick in St Michael's too. So, but I can't see past the top four, Cherry. The big four. The only thing that might come into, Cherry, is we know the draw for the first 2 rounds. Now this has been pointed out to me. So St John's played Kilcar in the first game. So say St John's were to win that game, that would put Kilcar under pressure. And I think there's a possibility, now it's unlikely, but Kilcar could get drawn with Gweedore and Glenties in their 3rd and 4th game.
Yeah.
So things like that could play out, Cherry. Could make it very interesting very early on. Now that's probably unlikely to happen.
I think a lot of the other clubs would be hoping that you're right there.
But they could get stuck with a very hard draw, which could put a cat amongst the pigeons and somewhere like that there. But you would think otherwise, Cherry, them top 4 will go into the quarterfinals.
Yeah, Danny.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, Charlie. I think those top 4 we've been talking about now a number of years, they are a level ahead of everybody else. But I suppose the challenge for particularly like some McCools and Glenfin, who have made, and Bundoran have made the quarterfinals for the past 2 to 3 seasons. Yeah. Do you keep making quarterfinals and keep getting knocked out? At some stage you're going to have to say, no, if we make it this year, we have to make an imprint on it, take out a big gun. But it's really, really difficult to take out any of those big 4. Yeah. But with the way the draws is this year, Charlie, with the seeding out of it, you could end up with possibly, say, a Glenfin McCool's quarterfinal or a Glenfin St Michael's quarterfinal, and all of a sudden you've got one of those teams in the last 4, and one of the top 4 has been knocked out because they will have met in another quarterfinal.
Just let's clarify that, Danny, because last year the top 4 had home advantage in the quarterfinals against 5 to 8 in the table. That's not happening this year.
That's not happening this year. So we've still got a 16-team league. So you play your 4 games, and then the top 8 will qualify for the quarterfinals. Yeah. But last year the top 4, number 1 played 8, 2 played 7, etc. This
so
year
it's an open draw for
it's
the
an open draw and no home advantage.
Okay.
So even in that situation there, if you refer to, say, St Michael's last year, who went down to play Kilcar and Towney and ran them very, very close near the end, this year if that scenario develops, it could be played in Donegal Town or somewhere a neutral venue. So that kind of equals things out a wee bit more, So I think it's a good thing. I think I found last year, I think I said this to you earlier, between the intermediate quarterfinals and senior quarterfinals last year, all 8 games were won by the home team. Yeah. So it was a big advantage. So I think when you get a quarterfinal stage, neutral venue, open draw, it really makes it exciting, because if the big guns meet in the quarterfinal, it opens the door to somebody coming out.
Yeah. And an interesting aspect of it, John, this year as well, is the bottom 4 were sweating last year in terms of getting into relegation playoffs. It's the bottom 8 this time that are going into quarterfinals for relegation playoffs. So, if you don't qualify for the quarterfinals of the championship, you're in a battle then. Yeah, 4 teams were safe last year. Yeah. That's not happening this year.
You have to hand it to the county board. It makes every game count, and it probably makes score difference and everything like that there. So, your 4 games are going to count for something, to try and get into the quarterfinal, or even, boost yourself further up the table that you might get. Is it? I suppose is the relegation draw open draw too?
I think it is. Yeah.
But so they probably will go down to the 4th game in a lot of places, Cherry, where teams are fighting to get into the top 8 or stay out of the bottom 8, and things like that. Score difference will all probably come into too. So it's going to make it very competitive.
Yeah, Danny, just talk about that end of the table. Last year it was a real battle. It was Termon, Milford. Was it Ardra and Dunlow? And Dunlow ended up getting relegated back into intermediate for the first time in many years. Yeah. This time, with the 8 teams, you've got to play out. I mean, you've been there with Milford, bringing them into the senior championship. Difficult in a situation that, you need to get enough points to stay in the championship or get into those relegation playoffs. Yeah. But the fact now that the bottom 8, is that extra pressure for everybody?
Probably is, Charlie, yeah, because realistically, it's going to be hard to make a quarter-final. So you could still have a decent championship season and end up in a relegation spot. You might lose a quarter-final spot by maybe score difference, and yet end up in a scrap for relegation against a team possibly who might have picked up any points in the initial stages. And the only thing I'd be concerned about with the new format is, let's say, for example, New Connell, who are reigning champions from last year, if they say would have won the first 3 games, will they then rest players for the 4th game? Because last year they would have been looking to secure top 4.
Yes.
Whereas this year they might have top 8 secured fairly early. That could influence the bottom end of the table in terms of score difference, because they still might win that 4th game, but they mightn't have all of their team out. So the score difference might help some team that had struggled for 3 games. But in terms of what the question you're asking in terms of relegation, when I remember down in Gweedore last year watching the McCool's game, and all the championship games were fixed at the same time.
Yes.
And at Kenai in the Milford situation, they were playing 4 Masters, And I think had they were winning by a point going into injury time.
That's right.
Four Masters got
Young
equaliser.
Kennedy got scored a point.
Yeah, and that
yeah.
saved Four Masters and put Milford into the relegation playoff. And then they got beat then by Termon, and then had to beat Dunloe to survive. So
yeah.
it'll go to the last game, last day of the campaign anyway. But that might just change things if teams are already qualified from.
And the tension's there, John, because I remember the relief on Francie Friel's face in O'Donnell Park when Termon beat Milford in the semi-final, and the fact that that's it, we're still in the senior championship. But there's a lot of pressure on, and then Milford and Dunloe then in the final. A lot of tension there as well.
We don't like the job of St Eunice and never at that end of the table. But when I was at Milford that first year, having won the intermediate in 17, we had to play Burt in the relegation playoff in O'Donnell Park, and that was as big a game as we'd played, because when you make that step to senior, you don't want to step back down right away. No,
exactly.
I think the pressure at the bottom end of the senior championship is a different type of pressure, but at the same time it is pressure.
Yeah. Just look at those fixtures, John. Any surprises there? I mean, the Killybegs, Glenswilly on Sunday has a good ring about it, because both of them will feel that a victory there will put them in good shape. Glenswilly then, I think, have St Eunan's. No, sorry, they have McCool's in round 2. And I'm just checking, Killybegs are away to Bundoran. So both of them will feel that those are probably matches that are winnable for them.
Oh no, that's a very even. Them first 2 games are very even. And talking to Big Jared out in Glenswilly, that's what they're thinking. Yeah, if they beat Killybegs, they're a good start and their confidence will be up. If they get beat by Killybegs, they'll be under pressure against McCool's the next week.
Yes.
Whether McCool's win or lose
those
against
are 50-50 games.
I think so. And McCool's and St Michael's on Friday night, you'd probably say 50-50 as well.
Yeah.
Maybe McCool's played well last year, had they kicked on a bit. St Michael's are always decent. I kind of forgot about that good performance that St Michael's put in against Kilcar last year. Away in the championship in the quarter final. They were nearly turned them over, which was hard to do down there. So, when you've got quality of Michael Langan and Colin Matney still hanging about there, Martin McElhinney, especially Langan, he's a quality player, Charlie, and he could win a game on his own, so he's going to be a big player. So can McCool's curtail him and maybe try and get Oisin Gallen into the game for them.
So Michaels will see that as winnable, won't they?
Game,
because away games are difficult to win, but they'll see that as a winnable option for them. And then they're home to Gweedore then, which is going to be a really tough one. So is that nearly a must-win for them?
For St Michael's?
Yeah.
You would think so, Charlie, but it's not going to be easy, But if they're away are they home or away to Gweedore the following week?
Home to Gweedore.
But that's not going to be easy. So yes, the Michaels will need to get off to a good start against McCool's, because if they lose that or even a draw, and then say they lose to Gweedore the next day, well then they're under real pressure.
Yeah. We could say the same about Danny with that Ardra Bundoran fixture, because I'm just looking. Ardra play Milford the following week. Milford at home to them. Bundoran at home to Killybegs. So both of them will see those 2 games as winnable games as well.
Yeah, big time, Charlie. And I think it goes back to that conversation with the top 4 again. If you can avoid the top 4 in all of your games, you have a realistic chance of making a quarter-final. If you meet one of them, you have a chance. If you meet 2 of them, you're probably looking at relegation games. Those 4 teams we talked about there, McCool, St Michael's, Ardra, Bundoran, they don't meet any of the big... St Michael's do meet Gweedore, but the other 3 don't. So they'll be targeting at least 2 points, if not 4 of the first 2 games.
If you look at Killybegs, Glenswilly, Ardra and Bundoran, none of them meet the big 4. I don't think, do they?
St Michael's meet Gweedore in the second game.
Oh, St Michael's, but the other...
none of them do. None of them do.
So they'll see the opening 2 games as possible 4 points for them.
Big time. And that home game for the likes of Killybegs and Ardra, realistically speaking, if they want to make an impression on the championship, they have to win their home games against teams that they could beat. So it's a massive game at home at the weekend for those teams there.
Milford going to Gweedore, Danny, your former club, struggled last year to get it. Did it when they needed to in the final against Dunloe, but it's a big ask for them.
It's a big ask, it is, and I would still have a bit of contact down there with the lads, but COVID didn't really help them last year for some reason. I think they were probably worse affected than most in terms of just getting their heads around it and getting focused on it. But having said that, it goes back to what I said earlier. They were 1 kick away from being outside the relegation scrap, so they will certainly be targeting the Ardra game in 2 weeks' time at home to Ardra. That's a massive game. That's the real big championship game. But they've been to Gweedore, won a Gaeltacht game down there, won a league game down there, so they won't play with any fear. That's one thing with the Milford boys. Like even that year we played St Eunice in the quarter final. They backed themselves that night in terms of, and we all did, in terms of we'll have a cut. We're not going to go down and try and defend our way through it. So they'll have a cut at Gweedore at the weekend. But the question really is more about Gweedore. I think Gweedore last year were flat.
Yeah.
And they looked like a team that had a lot of mileage in the clock from the previous 2 seasons. They've new manager down there, Maxi Curran's in there. If there's a big bounce from Guidor, then you'd expect them to come through that game.
Well, they've looked flat enough in the league, John, and they haven't set the world alight. I saw them a couple of times, and they were, they weren't impressive.
And some of the results, didn't Glenswilly beat them? And Glenswilly have been going well at all.
Ardra beat them over
Ardra beat them,
yeah. So now, I know they were short a lot of players and all that, and it's very difficult to judge the league and that. But, your form coming and you just can't switch it on and off.
No, and I thought with Maxi, he would bring a bounce to them, you know what I mean? He would bring that there, just maybe what they were lacking. Maxi can come in for a year and maybe get a good bounce and good training and, have the tactics, and they would have everything going, and Kevin Cassidy there as manager, But it doesn't seem to have happened for them, Charlie. But that's league, so we're not going to, we'll know after a couple of games, against St Michael's, especially a test like that there. Still think at home they should have enough to beat Milford. But, as Danny said, it'll be interesting to see, are they flat or have they kicked on, or is there a hunger there to try and push on, try and win another championship? Because, they've plenty of good players, Charlie, but, when Guidor, it's always, if they're pulling together and if they gel well, they're dangerous.
Their squad is fantastic.
But
the loss of Kieran Gillespie, Neil McGee is significant. If Neil is injured, Kieran is injured, so they're 2 big losses if they're missing, But I agree that they have the talent. I mean, they were Ulster champions only a couple of years ago, so if they click, they are still going to be formidable.
I think the biggest surprise with them, Danny, was how they went backwards from winning that Ulster title. I know you get to that pinnacle, there's an awful lot of effort put in, but who was on here and said they thought they would dominate?
I did.
Guidor, you said that Guidor would dominate for the next 2 or 3 years. When you looked at the way they played, you looked at the squad they have, but it doesn't happen like that.
But you know what, Charlie? I think, see that 3-game saga with New Connell the previous year, that obviously took more out of them than we realise. For sure. Because they had a long campaign the year before, getting to win Ulster, and then had the crack off Corofin in the semi-final. Yeah. So they're still on a wee high going into that 2 years ago. Bundoran, remember, nearly caught them in the quarter-final. It went extra time. But they got through that. They got through the semi-final against Kilcar, wasn't it, up in Balbafay? Yeah. And then they went into that 3-game saga against New Connell. But they never, even that year, they weren't playing at the level they were playing at in 2018, I didn't feel. And they certainly didn't reach the levels last year, because I was at 2 or maybe 3 of their games, and I remember reporting back on it saying, Guidor, there's a big performance coming, but it never came. And then McCool's almost caught them in the quarter-final, and then they were flat against Kilcar in
completely flat. Well, they played Oran that day, and he shouldn't have played him. He wasn't fit. But there was no jizz on them that day whatsoever.
So they looked like a team at the time that just had enough. But with Maxi coming in and Joe Duffy and Kevin Cassidy, that might reinvigorate them. And we'll see a lot on Sunday, or is it Sunday they're playing?
They're playing Sunday.
If they need to put in a bit of a performance.
Just look at those fixtures then, those 4 fixtures, lads. Can we get a surprise? It's hard because I think the middle 2 there, Killybegs, Glenswilly, Ardra, Bundoran, as we said, are 50-50 games. You'd expect St Michael's, maybe they have the edge on McCool's. They're playing Division 1 football. They've put in a couple of good performances. You'd expect Guidor to beat Milford. Any surprises in store there for us?
What's a surprise though? Because I think Killybegs, Glenswilly's 50-50.
50-50, I agree with you.
And I think
Ardra, Bundoran's probably 50-50, is it?
Probably more towards Bundoran. Okay. Not based on anything other than, I think they went there, was it last year, the year before, in the championship and won. But
Bundoran, a few good results there in the league.
And Ardra are going to be at home, and they're going to be tight, and they're going to be hard to beat. This Bundoran team are a bit of an enigma, to be honest with you, because they've reached quarter-final stages, and bar the year that they almost beat Guidor. I think they were hammered last year by St Junans. They were well beat the year before the Guidor game by Guidor themselves, and beat the year before that by Kilcar. So
they haven't had the best of draws in the quarter-final.
No, they've had tough draws, and that's the nature of that whole top 4 thing if you didn't top your group. So they could make a quarter-final this year and get a team that isn't won the top 4, and then they become a dangerous championship team if they make a semi-final.
But to do that, they're going to have to win games like the one.
They're going to have, they're going to have to go to Ardra and win if they have any serious aspirations.
I think McCool's could run St Michael's tough, Charlie.
Yeah,
I think so. If
I would agree with that.
If Alshingallen can get going, and McCool's were decent last year, so I don't think they'll fear St Michael's. So McCool's at home on Friday night will be interesting.
Daniel McLaughlin's come in there at St Michael's, and there's just new manager coming in. They seem they've got a lift immediately from that. I mean, he has a track record with the club.
Yeah, and they had, was it O'Neill from Stephen O'Neill's brother was in there last year, and then Kevin Cookie took on for a while. So they're not a third manager in the space of maybe 9 or 10 months. But going back to managers, sure, Kyle Cody's in there with Bundoran. So we expect him to give them some kind of structure, because I think no more than the day they played yourselves, John, out in the park last year. They had no defensive structure whatsoever. No. They were so open, and I've often questioned, do they really want to defend as a team? They don't seem to want to defend. No. They're quite happy to be in high shootouts. You know, with the likes of Jamie Brennan driving them, and they've Goveroff. They have good players.
They have Clancy's good player.
If Kyle Gorey comes in and gives them a shape and a structure, that should improve them. And they'll have to have it going away to Ardra. They'll have to have some kind of shape to their defense.
And as we said earlier, they've got Killybegs at home the following week, Ben. So they're probably thinking we can win those two, and that'll put us in a great situation.
Big time, yeah.
Interesting stuff. All right, we're going to move on from the senior championship. Those 4 games, just to remind you again, that on Friday night it's McCool's against St Michael's. Then on Sunday, Killybegs against Glenswilly, Ardra against Bundoran, and Gweedore against Milford. And staggered times for those games. The one on Friday night, I think, is 8 o'clock, maybe an 8:30 start. 8 o'clock, is it? Yeah. In McCool Park. Right, we're going to take a short break. Many thanks to Kelly Centre at the Mountaintop. They're celebrating 10 years in business. There's massive giveaways all week, televisions, mountain bike, free fuel, and thousands in spots prizes. So if you want to see more, DonegalDaily.com. Get along there every day this week for updates. Rejoin us after this short break.
Check out Letterkenny's newest and most exciting ice cream parlour. We are open 7 days a week for ice cream, milkshakes and more. Stop off on your adventures throughout Donegal or sit in and indulge in a Big Scoop Sunday after your meal in Kelly's Diner. Big Scoop only uses the finest and freshest of ingredients, from handcrafted ice cream to home-baked goodies from Purple Velvet. Big Scoop has it all.
And you're welcome back to our podcast in association with Donegal Daily and Donegal Sport Hub. We're looking at the 2021 Championship with Danny O'Donnell and John Harn in studio with me. Thanks to Kelly Centra, who are celebrating 10 years in business, for their support. Right, Danny, I'm going to start with you, intermediate. You have a bit of a history with Niamh Worra and with Milford in the Intermediate Championship. As hard or a harder championship to win than the Senior Championship, because we think there's probably more than just a big four in the Intermediate Championship. Certainly that's the way it's been for the last few years.
Yeah, it's a seriously competitive championship, Charlie. It has been for a long, long time. And yeah, I was lucky enough with Niamh Worra and Milford to get over the line on it. But the year before Milford won it, we got beat by Burt
That's right.
Who kind of came from nowhere really to win it after replay against beat Glen in the semi-final. So you can't rule anybody out of the intermediate. Once you get to the quarter-final stage, any of the teams could probably realistically have a crack at it. But I think, having said all that, I think there are 2 or 3 teams there this year that probably are a cut above. I think Cloughaneely, playing out of Division 1 football now for the last maybe 4 seasons, beating the last 2 finals, they have to be considered to be a big gun in this. Buncrana, after walking through Division 3 unbeaten, they're going to have a big say in it. And New Columba were very unlucky the last 2 seasons. They got beat by the eventual winners, by St Knowles 2 years ago when they were 9 points up in the semi-final and blew it. And then last year went extra time with Ballyshannon. Ballyshannon beat them by a point in the end.
That's right, I was at that game.
And they went on to win the championship. So they'll be knocking on the door. And the other team obviously will be Dunloe, coming down from senior championship. You'd expect them to have a crack at it. But outside that, you still got teams like Malin will fancy their chances. Fanad, Nimura made the quarter-final last couple of seasons. So once you get to the quarter-final intermediate championship, it's pretty much open. You have to perform, Charlie. The one thing, like a senior level, I always found, even if the big 4 didn't perform on the day, they still grow the line because they're that quality, particularly coming off the bench or whatever. Intermediate championship, if you don't perform at quarter-final stage, you won't get over the line.
No.
You know.
John, Cloughaneely, Danny mentioned them there as possible favourites. A great team to watch, I have to say, because they play, and we've talked about this before. The disappointment of losing 2 finals in a row, I mean, that's hard to come back from. Can they come back again and give it another big run? Well,
Charlie, this is that, but they have to. They've no other choice if they're playing for the club and they're, as Danny said, they're in Division 1, so they have to keep competitive. They can't just throw the towels in and maybe linger in Division 2 or linger in Division 3. So, the fact that they're in Division 1 and they're staying there, means that they're putting the effort in. So, as Danny said, the pressure's probably on them to go and win it now that Ballyshannon are gone and St Knowles the year before. So Cloughaneely to me is a standout team because they're playing Division 1, Charlie. You would think that, but that hasn't happened for them this last couple of years. No. So
a hard start for them with Neath Columba because they're going to have eyes on as Danny said, and doing something. They should have won that game in Killybegs last year.
But Cloughaneely had a tough draw last year too in the group stages and came through it. I think they had to go to Ballyshannon. They beat Ballyshannon.
They had tough games.
I think they had Glen as well at home. Now, Glen have a very tough draw again this year. They seem to get the rough end of it all the time. But I think Cloughaneely, based on, and Jason, you have players like Jason McGee, if he performs to his level, that's going to be a big player at intermediate level.
A new young lad up front there now. Is he McGarvey?
Young Blake McGarvey.
I saw him against Killybegs now down in very impressed with him because he's very direct. You get in the ball, he's going to take the defender on, he's going to go for the score. And with guards now, forwards, have an opportunity to do
that's
that.
Right. And they can't be pulled down, and you get the black card. I suppose Aaron Doherty's still going very well. He put up some massive scores so far in the league. I think against Termon one day he scored bar 2-9 or 2-10 in a league game. So he's going to be power in Neath Club. I suppose Jerry Convoy still need to be in the rec, and they're playing Division 2 football, and this year, and they've
impressive and one of the junior.
Exactly, and they'll be there. They'll be competitive. Lawrence will have them competitive. No more than Cloughaneely. If you're playing in Division 2, you have to be at yourself. You can't just throw, saunter through the league. So Convoy will be in decent shape, and I suppose Fanad, will have a wee bit of momentum. I know they got beat yesterday against the Kenny Gales in the promotion game, but at least it's a competitive game that they had that I suppose Convoy didn't have this weekend. So Fanad will be coming in battle hardened, so to speak. So they'll be looking to maybe turn over Convoy in that first game on Sunday.
Yeah, Dunloe, you mentioned there, Danny. I mean, disappointment for them going out of senior championship for the first time, and I can't remember how many years. There's a lot of years. Is there a psychological barrier there when you go down to intermediate? Because, all of us will look at Dunloe as potential winners of the intermediate championship.
Yeah, based on their tradition and history, you would think, but it's a very new team, Charlie, at the same time. They've lost a lot of players, no more than our own club down at home to immigration, and they're kind of rebuilding a younger team there, and they've Desi Galler in there as manager. Yes, if they go down thinking we played senior, we can give this to intermediate a cut, they'll get caught. You're not going to intermediate championship unless you're ready to play intermediate and battle it out. And I think looking at their games, Dunloe are playing against Newbridge, Red Hughes, Malin and Neath. There are 4 games they should be targeting to win. They're going to be in the quarterfinals, and they're going to be probably outside Cloughaneely, maybe the team to beat.
Yeah.
But psychologically, they have to get their head around it. They are now intermediate, whether they like it or not. That's the level they're playing at. And to get back to senior, you have to win the intermediate championship.
I was down at their game against Milford down in Ross's Park, and they were impressive that day. Now, they kicked a lot of wides that day, but still put up a big score. and Milford would have been disappointed with the performance. But Dunloe were physical, and they have good, strong forwards as well, and they have strength around midfield, so they're obviously going to be a test for everybody.
Oh, they are, surely, Charlie, and I think that physicality could be a key point in this championship, and I think Clonneely are a team that can match them for that in terms of physicality, possibly even Glen. Do Buncrana have that same physicality? I know they have size, the likes of Keelan McGonigal, John Campbell, boys like that, but I think they're the 4 teams that we should be looking at. But Dunloe will need all that stuff. They'll need it. They'll have Noah McBride in around midfield driving them. There's a Daniel Ward lad, plays full forward, a very good player.
Very good player.
Yeah, but they do have players that have left in the last couple of seasons. That probably accelerated their demise a wee bit from the senior championship, because they were on that slippery slope for a couple of seasons and just managed to hang on.
Yeah.
But if you're down there long enough, you'll eventually get caught, and that's what happened to them.
Yeah. 8 teams are going to qualify out of 12, John, so there's a wee bit of a comfort zone there, you know, that you could lose a game and still comfortably make the quarterfinals. Does that mean that teams can really relax a bit, or should they get in, get the job done and qualifying for the quarterfinals, and if you can get extra points in the last game or 2 grand?
Oh, you think so, Charlie? You don't want to be hanging on and leaving it to the last couple of games. You know, if you get off to a bad start, Charlie, it's all about, you know, momentum and morale, and like if you get beaten your first couple of games, and boys will soon have the heads down going to training, and where are we going, and you know, what's all this about, and they'll be giving out about the manager, and they'll be giving out about the trainer, and that's what players do, and giving out about everything. So you don't want to lose, Charlie, because if you lose, you know, the heads drop very quickly, and you know, the thing can become very demoralised very quickly, and players will start blaming everyone. But so you'd want to get the point. I would think that them teams will want to get the points on the board quick. I see Mal there too, Charlie. Like,
hard to beat down there.
Hard to be. You know, when we're chatting about earlier on about the top 4 and the open draw for the senior championship, I was thinking back to 2013 when they bet us from Buncrana and we were county champions, you know, and then they ended up getting to they didn't get the county final. I thought they should have got the county final, but I think they got
beat by Killybegs.
Got beat by Killybegs. I think they were too cocky that day.
I think they came with the 1 already under the
Malin were a good team at that stage, you know, they were Division 1 and they were very competitive, but they had a bad start, Cherry, this year to Division 3, didn't they? They lost their first 3 games.
Yeah, but they've recovered since.
They've recovered since, so that, you know, that's what I mean.
They'll be a dangerous team outside that 4.
So they've got their act together, and they've always got good players. So, Charlie, Danny knows more about the intermediate than me, you know, but very competitive, Charlie, and you know, it's there. You'd wonder, you know, in the back of their minds, maybe do Cloghaniddy or Dunloe thinking, you know, maybe Dunloe, I don't know, give Ulster a push. Would that be anywhere in their thing, in their mind? You know, boys, this is a chance. We could have a go
I wouldn't get too far ahead of myself.
No, I know. That's what I'm thinking.
No, but I think the point John making, though, I think that's a sea change in Donegal club football over the past 5 years at least, maybe a lot bit longer. Teams who won championships now are thinking of representing the county also. Yeah, exactly. So
and maybe Dunloe coming down says, right, we're down now, we're intermediate, but you know what, boys, let's look at the big prize.
Absolutely.
Let's look at Ulster. I don't know, Jerry, I'm just thinking, but you know,
no, you have a point.
It might be in the back of their minds, but no, I think when you've got Cloghaniddy there and Buncrana, you know, there's plenty there to take them on.
Right, let's look at Group A there and just pick out some winners for me, Danny. We're starting on Friday night there with the Buncrana Burt local derby down in Buncrana there.
Yeah, I can't see anything else other than that. Burt will probably set up, as they normally do, quite defensively and trying to bring it into a certain type of game. But Buncrana, by all reports, have been blitzed, never been Division 3. You know, Keelan McGonigal, with the experience from the county panel, John Campbell, previous player, Jigger. There's a young Loughlin lad there. There's a heap of them, and they're a big town as well, Charlie. They have a big pick. So Gary Duffy's in there as manager, so they're going to be well organised. And you say as a local derby, I can't see anything other than Buncrana win for that game there.
On to Sunday, John. Cloghaniddy, Niamh Columba, 2 teams that'll be hoping to be very much in the latter stages. Home advantage for
I think home advantage for Cloghaniddy, Cherry. Yeah, home advantage should see them through, but Glen will come, you know, with a plan, and with Aaron Doherty, you know, Cloghaniddy are going to have to try and keep him quiet and, you know, put the fire out there, and if they can do that there, they'll go a long way to win it. But you'd think Cloghaniddy at home, if they're favourites for their championship, they're going to have to win that game.
Absolutely. Convoy, Fanet Gales will be disappointed. They've lost that promotion game to a team playing in the junior championship, Letterkenny Gales, yesterday, Danny. I mean, that's a big blow to them. Convoy coming out of juniors, always difficult to make that step up. So with home advantage, can Convoy cause what might be a wee bit of a shock maybe?
Yeah, I think they can, Charlie. I think that experience of playing Division 2 football, I know the leagues weren't massively competitive, but for Convoy they were, because Convoy didn't know until very late on that the relegation was taken out of the equation.
Yes.
So they were kind of preparing themselves for a relegation playoff, because the way the league was structured, it was the bottom 4 were going in a relegation playoff. So they knew, realistically speaking, that they were going to be in that scenario. So they were quite happy then that was taken out of the equation and they can focus on preparing for championship. But even winning the junior last year, that gives you massive confidence. Like, they're going into the intermediate this year with nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing they'll want to make sure is they don't get back to junior.
Yeah.
And I don't think they will. They're too good to go back to junior. So that makes them a dangerous team because they won't have that same pressure as other teams. Depends now how Fanad react to the defeat yesterday in the promotion playoff. But I watched Fanad last year in the championship. They're young. They're a young, fit team. Michael Sweeney's obviously still a key player for them. Jimmy Coyle's a good player. They will still fancy their chances of beating Convoy, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So, but I think again, it's this home advantage. It's crucial, and I think it should get Convoy over the line in a tight game, in a very tight game.
I'll stay with you to go to Group B because Nivora against Red Hughes is another one. Home advantage might be the thing. Red Hughes have flattered to deceive for a couple of seasons now. I mean, I've seen them on occasion. I thought that's a good side, but then they never produce it, Danny.
Yeah.
Nivora at home are always a test.
Yeah, and that's a repeat of championship last year. Our lads beat Red Hughes down the banks in the championship last year as well. So we're hoping that happens this Friday as well. But we're in a bit of a transition down there at the minute, Charlie. We've lost a lot of players and it's not immigration, it's kind of travelling the world and doing different things. And we're quite young at the minute, but we still have talented players there. A couple of lads in the county under 20s this year in the panel. So look, we're hoping that the lads can. I think for Nimura it's really about winning the couple of home games they have and pushing and trying to get to the quarter-final stages. I don't think realistically we can win the Intermediate Championship. I think we're too young to do that when you look at likes of Claude Healy and them. But Red Hughes will come down with revenge on their minds after last year. They'll be driven by Steve McMenamin. Will drive them from midfield. That's going to be a tight game, but I'm hoping again home advantage. I think this goes back to the beginning of the conversation. This whole home advantage thing is massive in the championship, and that's why I think it's great that it's gone for the quarterfinals
for sure.
because it opens it up again. But I think this weekend the home teams, there's pressure on them because if you lose this home game this weekend, you travel the following weekend, and all of a sudden you could be 2 out of 2 defeats and looking at the relegation spot. So. It's a big game for the modern Friday night, and hope they come through it.
Dunlow at home to Niamh Breed. You'd expect Dunlow to win that one, John?
I think so, Charlie. Yeah. You know, coming down from senior last year and playing in Division 2, Dunlow should have too much for Niamh Breed. But Niamh Breed will go there, you know, and put it up to them. But as Danny said, Dunlow have a lot of, you know, a young team coming through, and Desi Gallagher and Jarge there knows them, and they're doing a good bit of work at underage. I think they'll know.
Niamh Breed had a poor league this year. They were down near the bottom of Division 3. So very poor. Worrying signs for them, particularly with that first game. And I don't know who they have in the second game, but that's a tough game. The second
game are at home to Niamh Ultan.
Okay, so they'll be targeting that as at a home game, you know.
And we'll stay with that one, John. Niamh Ultan against Malin. I saw Niamh Ultan beat Niamh Columkill in that long-awaited playoff game. Niamh Columkill very short of players and struggled really on the day. Now, they were in the game for the first 15-20 minutes, but after that, Niamh Ultan got away from them. And Niamh Ultan, what impressed me about them was they went out and won the game by as much as they could. They were around 4 or 5 subs. They seemed to be well organised, well geared up. Home advantage, they have to win at home if they're going to do anything in this championship.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a long trip for Malin, but Malin are used to that, Charlie. But, you know, if Malin have all their players, you know, the couple of boys back that, you know, Matthew Byrne and some of them boys that, you know, do a lot of soccer work, Glenn Gardner, if they can get them, I don't know what the story with them as at the
I don't think they're involved this year. Paul Darnham, some of them are back, but not the Burns.
So you know that's the thing with Malin. If they had all their team out, Jerry, they can be a lot better than what they are. When they're missing a few, it drags them back down into the pack. So it's going to be a tough game. Charlie, I don't know. You've seen more Niamh Ultan than me. I know our boys went over and played them in a league game or
I was at that game that evening.
So
the lads did very well, that Union's development team that night, and that would be a wee bit of a concern for me for Niamh Ultan. If the Union's development team were pushing you close, it was 315 to 310 on the day.
It was a good game.
I think Malin. I agree with John. I think Malin are a dangerous outfit if they get their act together. And if they go down, if they come out of there with a win, for example, this weekend, that puts them in a strong position going forward and puts Niamh Ultan on the back.
If they out of the one, they go to Niamh Breed the following week in a derby game. What do you think? Well, we'll have half a chance there as well.
Look, Alan Lyons is obviously the key player. You know, he's going to have to produce a big performance for them, but that's against another one of those 50-50 games, isn't it? It's very hard to call it.
It's a long way down the road, but who's going to win the Intermediate Championship, John?
Oh, I'll stick my head on the line, Charlie, and go for Buncrana to make it two championships in a row, junior, and go into intermediate.
Back to back championships.
Like the Meath ladies.
Well, you know, when you have momentum and they have good players, like they shouldn't have been in junior for that long.
No,
you know, and we didn't mention Bruce Waldron. He was up in that county squad, training. So they've got that bit of, you know, that as Danny said, they're a big, strong team. They're plenty of big men. So I'll stick me. I'll go for Buncrana.
Good man. Head on the chopping block. No bother to you, Danny.
I'm going to stick to the boys down the west. I think the hurt of losing 2 finals, it's got to drive them. It's really got to drive them, and I think they were so close. They felt aggrieved 2 years ago. Remember that they played St Knowles on a Wednesday night and then play a county final on Sunday.
Right.
And then last year I watched that game on stream, and there were a couple of mistakes. Things went against them against Ballyshannon on the day. So, and Michael Lynch has been there now, I think 5-6 seasons,
pulling his hair out.
He won. I mean, they need to play senior championship playing in Division 1.
Yeah.
You know, so if the pressure doesn't get to them, I would like to see them get over the line, but it's not going to be easy.
Okay, it's going to be a good intermediate championship. We'll take another break, rejoin us, and we'll just give a mention to the junior and the C championships, which are coming up as well. Thanks to Kelly Centre for their support. We'll be back after these.
Check out Letterkenny's newest and most exciting ice cream parlour. We are open 7 days a week for ice cream, milkshakes and more. Stop off on your adventures throughout Donegal or sit in and indulge in a Big Scoop Sunday after your meal in Kelly's Diner. Big Scoop only uses the finest and freshest of ingredients, from handcrafted ice cream to home baked goodies from Purple Velvet. Big Scoop has it all.
And you're welcome back to our podcast here as we look forward to the 2020 championships here in Donegal, the Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure Championships, due to get underway this weekend with matches at senior, intermediate, junior A and B, and in the C Championship as well. Kelly Centre are supporting us as usual. They're celebrating 10 years in business. There's massive giveaways all week, televisions, mountain bike, free fuel and thousands of spot prizes as well. For more details, go to donegaldaily.com to see what's happening over there all week. Thanks to Marcin and his staff for their support. Junior A Championship, lads, there's fixtures there now, starting on Saturday. St Eunan's against Robert Emmets. We were just saying during the break there, Danny, some good teams. Downings are in there, Orris are in there. Letterkenny Gales, on the back of getting up to Division 2, are in there as well. Carndonagh, you know, there's a lot of competition there.
And I would have seen some of those teams this summer, Charlie, but I watched Carndonagh, and obviously they've Conor O'Donnell from the county set up driving them, the young team. Look, realistically, you're still looking at Downings, who are playing Division 2 football. Gales getting promoted at the weekend will have a big say in the championship. Moville, another dangerous team, could throw a shape on it. Oris, it's very hard to call it, but I would be looking at the likes of probably Downings and the Gales has been the strongest two within the championship. Now, of course, that format is slightly different to the intermediate and the senior, in that you have a 6-team and a 5-team.
Yes,
you have to win your group to qualify
for the semi-finals
directly, and then the second and third will play playoff. So, like that group there, for example, that has Moville, Narossa and Downings and Oris in it.
They have.
I mean, one of them.
That's the group of 6.
That's the group of 6.
A,
so one of them will make the semi-final, whereas the next two will have to play off. So, bit of pressure on Downings to top that. And then the other side, then of course you've got Cairn and Gales looking for the top spot. Muff, another dangerous team. Newton come down from intermediate. So it's another competitive championship.
Absolutely.
Like, it's no doubt.
Downings need to bounce back from last year, John. Very disappointing in the final last year against who was it? Convoy.
Convoy beat them.
Convoy beat them. They were very disappointing. And Letterkenny Gales, obviously on the back of getting up to Division 2 and showing vast improvement from that defeat in their semi-final last year. They'll fancy their chances.
I think so. I think the Gales are on the up chair. I suppose as chairman of units, I better congratulate them on their promotion.
Well, I was waiting for you to do it.
Well, no, but fair play to them. But I think the key to the Gales is Anthony McFadden has come in and he's training them and getting good shape on them, and I think a lot of strength and conditioning. So they've obviously put a big effort in this year. As you say, Chad, they were kind of drifting along there and they were struggling to get out of Division 3 and haven't won the junior championship yet. So they're coming. I think that's a big one for them yesterday to get into Division 2 and the wins in their seal, and to me, Terry, they're going to be the team to beat in the junior championship. It's up to Downings maybe as the next best team to can they put a stop to it from Group A. But as Danny says, Cairndonagh got promoted, I think 100% record in Division 4. So these teams that have won charity and have got promoted and they've had a good season, as I say, they're going to have big numbers of training. They're going to have the confidence and the confidence and goal maybe after a defeat or two. But starting off, they're all going to think they have a shot. So but you still think the Gales favourites and maybe Downings or Cairn then maybe to try and match them.
And it's fair to say, Danny, each team in each of these two sections, Group A and Group B, will want to win to get straight into a semi-final, because if you don't, you're into a quarter-final situation, and that's a tricky one to find yourself in. Good teams have lost in that playoff quarter-final.
Yeah, because you'll end up playing, say you finish second in that first group, you'll end up playing third in the other group. So you're still talking about probably Letterkenny Gales, Cairndonagh and Muff being the 3 from one group, and probably Downings, Moville, Narossa possibly, Oris from the other side. So they're all decent teams, So you want to get to the semi-final as quickly as possible and give you that extra week of preparation as well. And you have a wee look at the team when you're resting, they're playing, so you have a wee look at them, prepare your team. So I think
that's a good thing, because unlike some of the others, what we were talking about, that you might be already qualified after two games or 3 games. Not the case here if you want to top your group.
No, play it out until the end. You'll have to play it out, because I think they only have is the 4 games as well. You'll have to play it out, Charlie. Get top the group. There's no, but there's a back door as such, second and third. But you want to be in that semi-final as soon as you can.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to all those games at the weekend. There's also action in the Junior B Championship and in the C Championship. Will you be making an appearance in the C Championship, John?
Charlie, I played yesterday against Glenties in the C Championship, and they hammered us.
Yes.
So now they're going very well. Glenties was chatting to a couple of young boys that I was marking. And
was you playing anything to do with the hammering?
No. Too many boys like me playing was to do with the hammering, Charlie. But no, Glenties had a very strong team, a lot of young boys, and I suppose a lot of senior clubs are seeing the value of that third team now that they're getting them 17 and 18 and 19-year-olds football. And then see can they break into a reserve, because like Glenties are going strong at senior and they have a strong reserve team. So no, they were very good yesterday, Charlie. So they're definitely the team to beat in the Junior C Championship as Glenties.
Okay, great to see the championship getting going, boys, and great to have you in, and hopefully we'll have you in regularly over the next number of weeks as the matches develop, and we'll have more to talk about next week, the matches that are being played this weekend, and of course look forward then to the 4 other games in the Senior Championship that are down for decision on the weekend after next. So plenty of good action to come. Thanks again to Kelly Centra, celebrating 10 years in business. Congratulations to them. We really appreciate their support. Massive giveaways over there all week. And call into the shop or go on to DonegalDaily.com for every day this week. There'll be updates on what the prizes and the giveaways are. Thanks to Tommy here at Full Tilt Studios for looking after us as usual. We'll be back with our next championship next week. The Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast, Brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service 7 days a week.